Here we have a few simple hints and tips on how to professionally open up the transfer port in your air rifle barrel for your regulator fitting project. Now, if you've already watched the video on drilling the breathe hole in your air reservoir, you've probably already gone to the length of making yourself a simple jig or fixture so as you can clamp the various parts of your air rifle down, such as the barrel. Or you might have bought yourself or borrowed a set of engineer's V-blocks. Now the next thing is obviously what you can see we've done here. Make sure that you protect the surface finish of your barrel or parts using some masking tape, card or similar, and then now it's time to proceed. The first thing you need to do is find yourself a drill or a piece of ground steel rod which is of the existing size of the transfer port, so they should be a good clean fit without too much wobble, as is shown here. Now you probably already know what the reason behind this is, and for those of you who haven't twigged yet, it's quite simple. When you're enlarging the transfer port, you obviously need to keep the new drill hole that you're putting in, or enlarging the drill hole, dead level with the existing one. And so by putting a good fitting pin into the existing hole, you can then use an engineer's set square or another object that you know is square, move this around and check that you've managed to set your barrel up square and true in your jig and fixture. Now the next thing is, if you're somebody who's got a little drill press at home, like many people have and like we've seen in previous videos, if you leave this drill or rod into the existing hole, you can then place that into the chuck. So if you imagine my fingers are the chuck of the drill, clamp the chuck up, and so this will move to be dead in line so that the rod is in the chuck, and then you bring the chuck down so as it's in the hole, and then you can clamp or hold your work down tight whilst you drill this hole. This is probably best if it's a two-man operation, and whilst you're operating the up and down on the drill, your friend, wife, child is holding firm the jig and fixture onto the small drill press. So once it's all been aligned and it's in place, you're going to drill. Now when we were drilling the small hole in the air reservoir, I recommended that you used a fairly high speed. Now for expanding this hole, one, you need to have remembered to, as we've already covered, make sure that it's either the correct drill for the material or you've backed the drill off, and I would recommend a medium setting on your pillar drill, and that should give the best results, and obviously feed down slowly. Now you don't want to drill through and into the other side of the barrel, and so very simply, so as you know when you've gone as far as you can, your drill will either have a stopper on it that you can set, or if you push something simple like that into the barrel, then when you do go through with the drill, as soon as you see that twitch about, or if you move that with one hand whilst you're drilling, you'll know that you've gone through where you should do and that you're not down as far as the opposite side of the barrel. So drilling that out should actually be quite a simple process. Once you've drilled it out, you're going to find you're going to have a small burr on the top surface, and this is simply dealt with a small countersink tool. And to remove most of that, you should just simply be able to work this about with your fingers and take the worst of any marks off. And then to finish this surface off, simply use some fairly fine, wet and dry, like we've discussed before. I think this is 600 grit, so something from say 400 grit to 750 grit should do. You might want to put a little bit of light silicone oil or a light bit of water onto this, and then simply work it back and forth, and that'll remove the burr on the outside of your barrel. Simple. Now, obviously removing the burr on the inside of the barrel is going to be slightly more difficult, and if you're going to do this professionally or fit a regulator in the future, I would suggest that you buy one of these, again like we've looked at before. Hopefully you'll see this, a dental ball-ended burr, and then if you feed this carefully through the hole in your little battery electric drill or Dremel, and then you can remove most of the burr by carefully looking down the end of the barrel with your eye, holding it up to the light or putting a torch at the far end, and carefully nibbling away and removing a little bit of burr from the inside of the barrel. If you haven't got a dental burr, then a small jeweler's file should be pretty good for this, and we use these quite a lot ourselves. You just have to be careful just to get to the edge of the hole and just knock and wear off the burr. Quite often for this we'll either use a curved or circular file, or actually in fact a triangular shaped file, because you can get the edge of the triangle carefully onto the rifling and just work with the rifling and just work round and remove any drill burr that's on the inside of the hole. And that hopefully is that, and that shows you how to make a good clean job of expanding the transfer port hole in your barrel.